Marvel Rivals beta just finished over a week ago, and I got to play it, and I want to share some ideas for heroes I think would be fun and fit well into the game. I'll be coming up with concepts for their gameplay kits too, with details and examples so I'm not just reading off of a list the whole video. For the video, I made hero concepts for 2 tanks, 2 damage, and 2 supports. Hopefully the devs follow this too, so the game doesn't end up like Overwatch that has triple the amount of damage characters to the other roles. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, and I don't know everything about the franchise, and especially I don't know a lot about the comics. I've seen around a third of the MCU movies and shows, and I have friends that are pretty knowledgeable about it, but I had to do a good amount of research online before the video, so I apologize if I offend any of you Marvel nerds. That being said, I've got over 2,000 hours on both Overwatch and Battlefront 2 to cover my thoughts on hero design, and I think I got a good list that everyone will find a hero they enjoy. For our first Vanguard, we have Captain America. The Vanguard icon is his shield, but I could see him fitting in any of the 3 roles. I see him being a disruptor tank, but not your classic dive tank like D.Va or Winston, but more of a brawler disruptor tank, which I don't think I've seen done before, so that'd be pretty cool. Because he's a Vanguard, they should make him bigger than the other heroes, and normally than he's depicted. I don't think he needs to be like, I don't know if you've seen the leaked Doctor Doom art size, he doesn't need to be that big, but I'm thinking like a little bigger than Doctor Strange. For Cap's primary attack, he's going to use his shield that would have a medium melee range. I don't see his attacks doing a lot of damage. I'm thinking lower than most Vanguards, but enough for people not to want to stay in his face. Just a heads up, I'm not going to go through every comic to get images of all the characters' abilities. And another thing, I played the beta and mostly play games on PlayStation, so the ability binds that I have on screen will be the console versions. I'm sure the PC players will know better than me what their bind should be. And if you want to tell me that I'm wrong, you can always leave a comment, it would be appreciated. His secondary would be his iconic shield block. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that Captain America in this game will be a version that was unfrozen in 2099. If that's the case, he'll probably have some high-tech equipment that'll give him a large energy shield. For my concept, I'm just going to do the classic Captain America with the shield that'll only cover him. He'll be able to block a lot of damage with the shield and maybe reflect energy attacks. For his first ability on the left bumper, that is even more iconic, is his shield throw. Thor already has a hammer throw, and I have another weapon throw ability later in the video, but I'm going to make them both unique, don't worry. Cap's shield throw has a low cooldown and will deal light damage. When he throws the shield, it'll bounce from enemy to enemy that are nearby before returning to him. Before using the ability, he can also charge it by holding the button down, and the longer he winds it, the further the shield will go. Finally, if Cap crits an enemy with the shield, it'll stun them. Cap's second ability on the right bumper is his shield bash, taken straight from Brigida out of Overwatch, because Marvel Rivals seems to like to do that. He would travel a short distance in front of him and do light damage to the enemy he hits, and it'll have a low cooldown, just like his shield throw. He already has a stun, so most people wouldn't want him to have another stun, but since he doesn't do a lot of damage, and his gameplay is supposed to set up his allies for damage, I think it works. I think his dash should be able to do a short stun, and if not, at least apply a stun to an enemy if they were at full health. I haven't seen that in a game, and I think that would be cool. He could also use his shield dash defensively, and any ally that Cap would pass through could become immune to damage for like a quarter of a second. This would be useful for saving teammates who get struck by a heavy hitting ultimate. His final ability on the circle or B button is purely a movement ability. Cap would roll in whatever direction he's moving in and get a short speed boost. Roll and run will have a medium cooldown and is useful to chain into his other abilities. He could end the speed boost early by cancelling it with a jump, and that jump would launch him twice as high as his base jump. Captain America's ultimate ability is Assemble. When his ultimate is cast, he would shout Avengers Assemble, and any ally within its radius would have half their maximum health restored. After this, any ally that stays near Captain America during his ultimate will be given a speed boost and a damage reduction for a short while until his ultimate is over. I also came up with passive ideas for every hero. Like in another multi-platform Marvel game I will only mention once again, Captain America should be able to run on walls. Not like up a wall like Penny Parker or Rocket, but like Cal Kestis or a Black Ops 3 soldier. He would be able to block, dash, and throw his shield well on walls too. I'd think he'd be able to run on a wall for about 3 seconds before having to jump off and do it again. I have 2 team-up ability ideas for Captain America. I could see characters that fire energy attacks like Iron Man could shoot Cap's shield and the projectile would be reflected. This could be useful to fire around in crowded hallways, where if Iron Man peeked he'd pop like a balloon with his 250 HP. If the devs can make a full functioning Doctor Strange portal, which is like the coolest portal I've ever seen in any game, I'm sure they could do that. The second idea I came up with is if Captain America throws his shield and Thor throws his hammer, and both of the projectiles collide in the air, where they meet it could release an AoE stun. Who doesn't love Captain America? He's the GOAT. Besides that one time him and another super soldier beat an orphan with heart problems to the ground. We've got another Avenger for our first duelist, Black Widow. Black Widow would wield her dual hit-scan pistols, dealing average damage and having average accuracy, with each trigger firing a separate pistol. Her 24-round ammo capacity between both pistols would be shared for gameplay reasons. Her first ability on the left bumper is Widow's Bite Trap. The ability fires an electrical trap with a short radius. If an enemy comes within that radius before destroying the trap, they will receive damage over time and are slowed. The ability will have a medium cooldown and have 2 charges that are shared with another ability of hers that I will talk about soon. Black Widow's ability on the right bumper is Takedown. Black Widow is known for her martial arts skill, so I came up with an ability that incorporates this and a super cool mechanic. Takedown is a targeted melee ability where Black Widow grapples an opponent before using their own body weight against them to throw them to the ground. This ability has a medium cooldown time, a 1.5 second active time, and a 1 second stun with light damage to the grappled opponent. What makes Takedown special is that when Black Widow is grappling the target, they can also be damaged by their allies. If Black Widow uses this ability with no enemy being targeted, she will instead perform an acrobatic dodge. Like Magneto and Mantis, Black Widow has 2 versions of her Widow's Bite ability. There's the trap version, which I just talked about, and there's the projectile version. Pressing the circle or B button will launch the projectile version of Black Widow's Bite. That is a non-hit scan ability that has the same effect as the trap but lasts twice as long. I did some extra research on her character to see if there was anything I didn't know about that wasn't some outlandish comic power that happened once for her ultimate. This is the second time I went to Marvel's Avengers and saw that she had a cloaking device in one of her abilities. I'm pretty sure I've seen this in other games too. For Black Widow's ultimate, she will become invisible for the next 20 seconds, but when she fires her pistols or is damaged, she will uncloak briefly before becoming invisible again. And of course, while invisible, Black Widow will receive the effects of her passive. What is her passive, you say? Black Widow's passive is called Infiltrator. Any damage that Black Widow deals to an enemy while they cannot see her will deal 25% more damage. This buff is increased to 100% damage if the attack is a melee attack, like her base melee attack or from the Takedown ability, very true to her character. For team-ups, nothing special comes to mind, only buffs or effects to other members of the Avengers. Maybe if Black Widow and any other Avenger are close, they could get a speed buff. Black Widow is a fan-favorite character, and I think everyone would like to see her, and could be a cool gameplay mix between a generic shooter-type soldier and an assassin melee-type hero. Our final Avenger and first strategist we have is the android known as Vision. With Ultron as a confirmed leaked hero, it would be fun to have Vision in the game to foil him. Like I said earlier, I haven't read much of the comics, so when finding out information about the comic version of Vision, because most of the heroes in the game are based on their comic versions, I found out that he doesn't even have the Mind Stone in the comics, but a solar gem. So for Vision's primary attack, he will use his solar gem as an infinite range beam with fall-off damage. The beam itself won't do much damage, and will have an overheat mechanic instead of ammo. Vision's secondary fire will be a cone AoE heal out in front of him, powered again by a solar gem. This mode of fire will be infinite, but not have an overheat mechanic, so it will be more reliable, but the healing that the gem fires is slow. I don't think his gem can do this in the comics, but if they made Rocket Raccoon a support, I'm pretty sure this will slide. Vision's first ability is Intangible. When held, Vision becomes, well, intangible, not being able to receive damage, being able to fly freely through destructible terrain, and faster. If he passes through an enemy, they will be damaged. This ability is on a resource meter like Magneto's barrier, but has a low cooldown between uses. Vision's second ability would be Android Efficiency. When pressed, any ally within a large radius around Vision, even through walls, will have their ability cooldowns and resource meters sped up by 50% for a few seconds. This ability would have a long cooldown time, similar to Adam Warlock's Soulbind. This ability is simple, but brings a new mechanic and has a lot of potential and cool interactions with certain heroes and abilities. Vision's ultimate is called Synthezoid. When Vision casts his ultimate, he will send out a quick, long-range stun on enemies no matter what state they are in, and also replenish his intangible resource. For example, if he uses his ultimate, he can stun Scarlet Witch out of her Fade. After this initial stun, any enemy that uses their ability within the next 10 seconds of being hit by the stun, their cooldown information and any other ability they use or ultimate will be showcased above their character to Vision and his team until they die. Synthezoid could either be really strong or really underpowered, so we'd have to see how it would work and maybe make changes, though I do think it's a cool concept, and I would like to see how it would work in the game. I have 3 passive ideas for Vision. It would be cool to see all of them, but even just one of them would be nice. His first passive is a simple self-heal. Because he's a support and needs a way to heal himself, and he does heal himself quickly in the comics, after 3 seconds of not taking damage, he will start to recover 25 health per second. Vision's second passive is just his ability to fly, which would work exactly like Iron Man or Storm, using circle to descend and jump to ascend for Vision. I don't think they count as passives for Iron Man or Storm. Not too sure. The beta's ended, so I can't check now, but if it isn't, forget I said anything. Vision's final passive is a staple of his character's powers. It involves his density control. By pressing between triangle and the reload button, Vision can toggle between 3 modes of density. His average out density gives him no buffs or no debuffs. Pressing reload will make him more dense, reducing his speed by 20% but granting him a 40% damage reduction. And if instead triangle is pressed, the opposite will occur, where Vision receives 20% more damage but in turn is 40% faster. Vision has quite a packed kit, being able to use every button, so for his team-ups, I would like them both to be passive and on his teammates to activate for him. Vision's first team-up is with Hulk. Like Iron Man and Doctor Strange, Vision can be gammed up, increasing a solar beam's primary fire damage for a short time. Just like how Hela can revive Thor and Loki, if Scarlet Witch gets a kill while Vision is in the respawn phase or he is alive, she will either revive him or grant him bonus health. Vision would be a unique character unlike any other support we have in the game right now, being able to fly, having new support mechanics, but would still be able to fit just nicely into the cast. The second Vanguard I've made a hero concept for is a fan favorite, the only villain on this list, the Mad Titan Thanos. Thanos fits perfectly as a tank, being the size for it and having abilities that will soak up damage and deny space on the battlefield. Thanos does not have a lot of mobility. He is going to be a tough brawl tank that marches down his enemies. For Thanos' primary attack, I'd like to see his double-bladed sword. His sword has a long melee range like magic and would deal high damage. Thanos would be the hardest hitting Vanguard as long as he gets close enough to strike them. His secondary fire would be an ability, Sword Spin. Sword Spin will negate all incoming melee and range damage and will drive enemies back. It'll work like Arista's Javelin Spin from Overwatch, but instead of having a speed boost when using it, his speed will be reduced. As we've seen him often do in the MCU, Thanos' circle or B button ability would be a grab. A lot of crowd control can be annoying, so I think while the player is grabbed, they would still be able to attack Thanos, making for easy headshots against him. When Thanos grabs an enemy, he will have a short time to either throw them or slam them to the ground. If thrown, the victim could hit one of their teammates and they would both take damage and be knocked down, but obviously there's a risk of missing it, so slamming them down is a safer option. This would add a unique mechanic, and maybe even a grab target would take damage from their allies, like Black Widow's ability. Either way, it would be a cool ability I haven't seen done before and would fit his character. Thanos' right bumper ability is his sword throw. Thanos' sword throw would have a long cooldown, longer than Thor's and Cap's. It would travel slower, but it would deal a lot more damage than either of them. While the sword is thrown, any enemy projectile that comes into contact with it would be destroyed, which would make it super useful for offensive and defensive purposes. If Thanos strikes a target in the air with his sword, they will be knocked down until they hit the ground. Both his projectile block and his air stun would provide a fair chance for him to get close to faraway targets or flying targets. I think it would be fun to use and play around. As you can probably tell by now, I've been waiting to show you Thanos' first ability, which you're about to find out why after I explained his ultimate Infinity. A staple of his character, every time Thanos gets and uses his ultimate while staying alive, will grant him a new Infinity Stone. If somehow he survives, or the game is long enough that he gains all 6 stones, his ultimate after that would either wipe away the entire enemy team or instantly win the game. I think the game would be really cool, but I'm sure not everyone would agree on that. Before I get ahead of myself, the order Thanos would get the stones per ultimate would be the same as he gets the stones in the comics. He'd first get the Soul Stone, then followed by the Power, Time, Space, Reality, and finally the Mind Stone. Because having to scroll through all the stones would get really annoying, if you made it that far, the reload button for Thanos will pull up a wheel just like the Pinger Communications wheel, whereas then, you'll be able to select which stone you want to use. Finally, back to Thanos' first ability, it can be any of the Infinity Stones. The Soul Stone would be a simple ability where when Thanos activates it, he can see all enemies and teammates highlighted in orange throughout the entire map, and of course, while they are invisible and through walls, which he could use to be able to ping them and show them to his teammates. A unique feature of this ability, too, is that he'd be able to tell the real Loki apart from his decoys, just like he does to Doctor Strange in Infinity War. Using the Power Stone, Thanos will fire a high damaging beam for a few seconds, which will be good at making space against enemies and out of his base range. The Time Stone has the most possibilities out of all the stones, I think. After a few ideas I came up with, I think it would be cool if you could target it on enemies, allies, or himself to reverse damage taken and ability used in the last few seconds. To avoid griefing, it would only get rid of negative things that happen to teammates, but against enemies I think it could be either. It would be a skillful ability to use effectively, and it also would be able to revive dead teammates, just like he does to Vision in Infinity War. I could see the Space Zone working like Reaper's Teleport, or maybe even a quick lingering portal for any allies or maybe enemies too. This would be a great tool for covering ground quickly, and maybe flanking with his teammates if they are coordinated enough. The Reality Stone has many properties, but I think something that is intuitive enough for a game and also fits the role of a Vanguard denying space is an AoE effect. When activating the Reality Stone, Thanos would create a dome around himself, or maybe just recasted it, and any enemy within that zone would receive 25% more damage from all enemies, or a similar debuff / buff for his allies that would change their hero's reality, making it easier for his team to take them out. The Mind Stone is very complicated with what it can do. Some characters get super buffs from it, or it can take over minds, obviously. I think I've talked enough about crowd control to get Overwatch players mad, so I think I'll avoid the Ray Mind Trick reverse controls gag and think of something different. A simple version of the Mind Stone ability could be permanently increasing Thanos' health, or his health just getting bonus, like Venom Symbiote. It would be cool and add to the tank gameplay. Thanos is a simple passive called Titan. He does not have a lot of consistent defense and is slow to approach his enemies, so this passive would reduce the knockback he receives by a decent amount, so he would be able to approach on his enemies without being set back. We don't really see Thanos team up often, as he himself is a one-man army. One idea I came up with is if he has the Mind Stone, he can charge Loki's scepter, making his attacks home on to both enemies and allies. To put it simply, Thanos coming to the game is inevitable. Our next hero, a duelist, he was just in a movie that is in the top 50 highest grossing movies ever, the most popular X-Men, Wolverine. There are already X-Men in the game, and I believe Wolverine is one of the most requested characters to add to the game, especially after Deadpool and Wolverine's release a few weeks ago, so he would be a great addition. Black Panther already uses claws to attack, but my idea for Wolverine, though similar with basic attacks, will provide a different gameplay from the ability chaining attacks from Black Panther to a more limited but powerful playstyle. Wolverine will deal extremely high damage, but will share the shortest range in the game with Black Panther. Wolverine will have to close the gap to deal this devastating high attack speed damage per second, and his few abilities and few passes will help him do so. Wolverine's secondary fire is a melee ability called Lunge. Lunge is a simple ability which has to be used on the ground, and when used, Wolverine will dash forward a short distance, quickly damaging the first enemy he strikes. Wolverine's lunge will travel a set distance, no matter if he hits an enemy, unless he collides with a wall. So, if he impales an enemy, he will drive them back with him, and if he drives them into a wall, they will receive double the damage. Wolverine's first ability, which is also on a resource meter, is Four-Legged Run. Four-Legged Run is toggleable and is transformative, meaning that while he's using it, he can use any other ability or attack. While during Four-Legged Run, Wolverine will get a speed buff, can climb up walls, and slide down them slowly. Four-Legged Run is essential and versatile to Wolverine's kit to close the gap on enemies, whether they are far or up above. Wolverine's second ability is Claw Parry. When Claw Parry is activated, Wolverine will briefly cross his claws in front of him like he does often, and while he does this, he will negate all forward melee and range damage, just like Captain America's shield. If he parries a certain amount of damage, I would like to see a bonus applied to him, like maybe his lunge ability could instantly refresh. To my knowledge, Wolverine doesn't have a big move that would feel like an ultimate. He's more just a super powerful brute force type dude. That being said, I also didn't want to give him another buff ultimate because I've already done that for 2 of the characters so far in this video. For his ultimate, Frenzy, Wolverine will leap from one close target to another, dealing more and more damage each time. Wolverine will be very powerful, I think, in a 1v1, so his ultimate gives him a good counter to being hoarded by groups of enemies. It could be a big game changer if pulled off correctly. The damage would start off a little bit, scale up to dealing up to 250 damage. Like Vision, I came up with 3 passive ideas for Wolverine. His first one is simple but very impactful. Wolverine's healing factor would cause him to constantly and rapidly regenerate lost health. True to his character and vital to his gameplay, his second passive would be Hunter's Sense. Wolverine would be able to see enemy trails that they'd leave behind after they move, and when these enemies are below half health, he would also be able to see them if they were close through walls. Wolverine's passive, and my favorite one, is Adamantium Skeleton. I could have been boring and just reduced the base damage he receives, but I wanted to come up with something gameplay altering and hopefully not too overpowered. This passive makes it so Wolverine can take only a maximum of 100 damage per single attack. On most characters and most abilities, this wouldn't have any effect on gameplay, but if Wolverine was hit by a charged up attack or any ultimates, he would be able to survive them if he is already not wounded. I think this fits his character a lot while not making the ability too powerful, because if your team gets wiped, you've already lost the fight anyways, and if you're alone, it will be nice not to get solo ulted for flanking. For Wolverine's team up, I would like to see big tanks like Hulk, Venom, Groot, and Thanos be able to fastball special Wolverine. One of the most known Marvel team up moves has to be in Marvel Rivals. I can't imagine it will take long for the Marvel Rivals team to add Wolverine because he has such cool powers and is beloved by the fans. The last hero on our list is the Strategist from the Fantastic Four. Since Doctor Doom is the main villain of Marvel Rivals storyline, his main adversaries, I believe, will be added along to oppose him. Invisible Woman has no healing capabilities, but instead supports her allies through shielding them, hiding them from enemies, and repositioning them with her platform. Her primary tech is a medium-range concussion blast. This will travel at a slower speed and have a small AoE radius. Her attack wouldn't be that strong as she is more focused on her great defensive capabilities. The Invisible Woman's secondary fire is an ability called Force Field. Force Field will work very similarly to Radioactive Lockdown, to where struck opponents will be trapped, but instead of being exiled to where they cannot do anything, they'll instead be trapped within a physical barrier until they, their allies, or Invisible Woman and her team break the field. The Force Field will be applied with a projectile. It has a small radius but can trap multiple opponents if they are clustered together. Allies can't walk into the Force Field, but can walk out of it to avoid griefing. That would be funny, though. The Invisible Woman's reload button is an ability called Flying Field. Activating this ability will cause her to crouch in and project a walkable force field from under her feet that she's able to move around at will. Flying Field will have a long cooldown but unlimited uptime, and will only end if Invisible Woman chooses to end the ability, if her health bar is damaged, or if the barrier itself is destroyed. While Invisible Woman is projecting the platform, she is not able to attack or use any other abilities. This is a great tool for her and even her teammates to get back into the fight after respawning, gain the high ground by herself or with allies, and so much more. The possibilities with something like this would be high, and I'd love to see what people come up with. The Invisible Woman also would have a circle or B button ability where she can become invisible. This works exactly the same as Loki's invisibility, but of course won't have an illusion decoy and have a shorter cooldown. The first base ability for Invisible Woman will be a targeted invisibility. This will work just like Magneto's ally shielding ability, but for invisibility. A lot of abilities, will have a medium length cooldown, and just like Loki in Invisible Woman, if they are attacked or damaged, they will be revealed. Multiple allies can be invisibled at once, but she can only start casting the invisibility once the match starts. This might be overpowered though, and if it is, I would just make it on a timer, but that's more boring, so at least try to make the fun stuff work before settling if it doesn't. The Invisible Woman's second ability will be a targeted force field. I was going to have the ability work like a projected shield like Zarya from Overwatch, but Magneto already has the same ability, so we're going to have to get creative. I think that maybe she could project her own passive force field that I'll explain later. If that were the case, this barrier would be a lot stronger than Magneto's, but she would have to channel it, making her not be able to do anything else while casting it, and removing her own barrier from herself, making her vulnerable to attacks and flanks, so it is a fair trade-off. Now for her ultimate. Aligning and amplifying her character's powers, Invisible Woman's ultimate is a bigger AoE force field that protects her and all her allies from damage. When casting this ultimate, it'll push all nearby enemies outward, and give her and her teammates a 3000 health shield to protect them. I can see this ultimate being used to take points or to recuperate after a losing fight. Allies would be able to walk out of the shield but not back in, just like her force field ability. Originally I was going to make this her secondary fire, but with tanks in the game already having shielding, I didn't want to create a comp where you could have 3 shields. Now back to her passive. Invisible Woman has the least amount of health for a hero in the game, tied with Bruce Banner. It cannot self-heal herself. The reason for that is because of her passive force field. Her force field is strong and is always active except for when she's using any of her abilities. This force field can absorb a decent amount of damage before popping and can repair itself when not taking damage very quickly. I feel like they should save Invisible Woman's team-up abilities for other members of the Fantastic Four, but if I had to come up with an idea for this video, she could have a passive team-up ability where she amplifies the shield strength of characters like Doctor Strange, Magneto, and Hulk. It would either give their shields more health like Doctor Strange, or if they were indestructible like Hulk's, it would last longer. I believe there are already leaks that all the Fantastic Four members will be in the game, and if Doctor Doom is the main villain, then we will definitely be seeing them come into the game. It would be cool to see them for me, especially, because besides when Reed Richards got done dirty in Multiverse of Madness, I think I've only seen him in the LEGO game. So this is my first end card. I did not think this video would take this long to make, and it may not look like it, but it took around 7 to 8 hours of just editing. It's my first edited video though, so I expect this to get faster over time, and my audio quality definitely got better, so I'm improving. The production of the video started 2 weeks ago, before the Marvel Rivals team released the official launch trailer, and then the content creators got to showcase the 2 new heroes. And I would like to say, I got Captain America super close to what they had. I worked too hard to remove him from the video and swap him out with someone else after the video came out, and I think it's just a testament to my game design and what I know about the character. Or if you think I just added him in, then you probably think I'm a good editor, so a win is a win. Also, about the one video a week thing I was talking about back in June, that's not going to happen, at least for now. I'm still going to be uploading, but with all that I have going on and my class starting in 2 weeks, I'm going to shoot for maybe 1 or 2 videos a month. Anyways, thanks for watching till the end of the video, or if you skipped here, you're kinda weird, or really nice. Stay classy.